Now, today we have a very special guest. We're going to be talking about the book called The Magical Path, Creating the Life of Your Dreams and a World That Works for All. And the author's name is Marc Allen. Now, Marc Allen is actually one of the founders of New World Library, and he knows firsthand that these tools work because he's been actively using them in his own life for over 35 years with impressive results. And throughout his 20s, he was a poverty case who was unable to hold a steady job. He was in the worst shape of his life and lived in a state of fear most of the time until he started doing yoga and meditation, which opened him up and set him on his own magical path where he began to discover and collect the tools that he teaches today. And the day that he turned 30 was the day everything started to change for him. Setting his fears and anxieties beside, he sat down and wrote an ideal scene of what he wanted his life to look like 5 years in the future and began actively putting the tools in his magician's toolkit to work in his life. And shortly after that, he and Shakti Gawain started writing and publishing books and co-founded New World Library, which is hugely successful. And now 35 years later, he's a multimillionaire who has written several books and created several courses that help others understand and implement the same tools he has mastered in his own life. So we get to talk to him today. And if you want to ask him any questions, 604-822-2487. That's 604-822-2487. Welcome to the show, Marc Allen.
Thank you. Thanks for that introduction.
Oh, you're welcome.
I almost don't have to say anything.
Well, I do want to ask you actually about that because so many of us are sort of floundering in our lives and not really sure what to do. And so that was happening for you in your 20s, which I guess is pretty standard for people in their 20s. But what was it that happened on your 30th birthday that made everything change for you?
I wandered around through my 20s. I did a lot of things. I did have one important piece from the puzzle. I think I learned subconsciously from my two older brothers, because my oldest brother did everything the parents wanted. He became a business major in college, went into a big corporation, and I noticed he wasn't passionate about his work at all. So I knew you can't do what your parents want. My other brother came along, and he was the total rebel. He just fought my parents every day of his life, right up till my dad's death when they made up, thank God. But I got from that, it doesn't do any good to rebel either, because when you rebel against something, you're empowering that thing. So I came along, I was the third boy, and I just knew subconsciously that this life is very precious and important, and it's important to do what you love. And so I did that through my 20s. I did all kinds of things. I was an actor. I had a rock band. I wrote music. Then I went to a Zen center, got into yoga, did all kinds of interesting things. But I had no idea how to actually make it work financially until the day I turned 30. And that's when I felt like I started putting the pieces together. I even remember vividly I had an image throughout my mid to late 20s that everything I'd learned was sand through my hand, leaving me with nothing. And that's why I was broke. I also had this deep belief that I was a total idiot with money. I was just a fool. I didn't understand it. It was beyond me. And that's why I had whatever I made just went. And then I turned 30. And I was in a state of shock that day. I couldn't even think of a party. I had to think about my life. And I paced up and down. I had no money. I had no job even. I lived in a little slum apartment, a one-room apartment in Oakland, California, not a nice part of Oakland, a place where everyone had bars on the windows and very funky area. And somehow that was cool in my 20s when I still could tell myself I was young somehow. I felt like a kid when I was 29. But the day I turned 30, I vividly remember my thoughts. It was, you're 30. You're not a kid anymore. And that's when I paced up and down and started putting together the things I'd learned. And the one simple thing, I talk about it in all my books, especially Magical Path, the simple thing I did, I sat down and I relaxed, and I remembered I'd had a back to the land experiment, too, in my early 20s. That was a total disaster. But one night we were sitting around a fire, and this couple said, let's play this game we play at church camp. Let's imagine 5 years have passed, and everything has gone as well as you could imagine. What would your life look like? What is your ideal scene, they called it. And we all went around the fire. I was about 22 then and don't remember a word of what I said. But the day I turned 30, I remembered playing that game, and I did it again, this time relaxing and meditating, and then picking up a piece of paper and writing it down. I wrote ideal scene at the top, much to my amazement, because I had no interest in business. In fact, I had all these conflicting beliefs about money and spirituality and art. I thought maybe money was the root of all evil, and it would destroy my true artistic creation and my spiritual life, or something, a bunch of messed up beliefs like that. But I dared imagine 5 years in the future, so I was 35, what kind of life did I want? What did I want my day to be? And much to my amazement, what spilled out is I have this wonderful, successful publishing company that just cruises along. I don't have to work too hard at it at all. In fact, I only work when I feel like it. And it publishes my books and music and other great books, and it's very profitable. And I have a big white house on a hill in Marin County that's just north of San Francisco, the most beautiful county I'd ever seen. And then even when I dared dream my ideal, I thought, and I don't work too hard. I have plenty of time for my music and for other things. And in fact, I have time to just goof off and do nothing and have a family. And as soon as I dared dream that, of course, I was just overwhelmed with doubts and fears. And so the next important step, the older I get, the clearer and simpler I see it. There's just two essential things to do, and I did them the day I turned 30. One, dare to dream and really set that goal and set it high and go for it. And the other thing is to deal with all the doubts and fears that inevitably arise when we dare to dream.
That is amazing. And I think that's the thing. In your book, you do talk about the fear and how debilitating it is, and how so many of us are afraid of failure. And then there's also the fear of the success too, because there's the fear of, okay, well, if I get what I want, then I like what you said about, it doesn't take too much to maintain. I have time to goof off. Because sometimes when people get more successful and they're working in their own business, they find that they're just working harder and harder and harder.
Yes. And they start looking at their hourly income, and it's not much because they're working so many hours.
Yeah.
I know. That's why it was such a great trick. And to this day, I have people do that in my seminars right away. Just imagine 5 years have passed and dare to imagine your ideal. What do you really want? For me, when I look back on it, I realized I didn't want to be an author that flies around promoting and speaks to thousands of people and at all. That wasn't my dream. My dream was to have a lot of time to myself in a big, beautiful house with lots of land and lots of days that are totally open with nothing on my schedule, where I just can walk around my house and have no plans, nothing I have to do. And that's exactly what I created. One small step at a time. That's what I created. And I did it just by keeping focused on that goal and realizing once you dare dream and focus on a goal, the first few steps are obvious. I didn't know a thing about business. I'd never taken a course or had any interest in it at all. So the only first steps I could think of literally were read a Used Business 101 textbook and talk to people that were in business that knew more about it than I did. And that was all I could see. That was the only plan I could make at first. But there were two simple, obvious steps, so I did those two steps, and then I realized the next step. Oh, yeah, a business has to have a plan. You got to put a plan on paper. It doesn't have to be long at all. In fact, it could even be a one-page plan. I started making these one-page plans for my various goals. The simpler, the better. We're dealing with our subconscious mind. We dare to dream, and then we get our subconscious mind and all our inner sub-personalities, is one way to look at it. We need to get them on the same sheet of music behind that dream. We need to say to our inner critic and that critical parent, we need to say to them, you're a wonderful part of myself. I'm glad you're there because you can really help me out. But I want you to support this dreamer who is daring to go for this vision. I want you to support my inner dreamer, my inner visionary, because I have a dream. I want to live the life of my dreams. Show me how to do it. Don't undermine me with fears. Show me what are the next best steps to take.
So, Marc, now I'm curious with this. When I start thinking about what I want in the future and what I want my life to look like, I get very much up in my head. And so, and I don't really think that that's necessarily, like, there's all these judgments about what I should want or what I'm capable of achieving or what's realistic. So how did you really get into that place of, like, seeing a vision that you'd never even thought of before?
Well, the first thing I did was a simple little meditation that I have people do throughout the Magical Path, because it was a life-changing meditation for me that I got from a little book called The Art of True Healing that I found in a little bookstore on magic in Madison, Wisconsin. When I was 21 years old, I wandered into this store and came out with a stack of books, but this one book, the shortest book, was the one I read, and it had this simple little meditation that he called the Middle Pillar Meditation, and it's just imagining this light at the top of your head. You just close your eyes and relax and imagine light at the top of your head. Then you imagine that light just going down through your whole body, just deeply relaxing, and then circulating around in different ways. It can go up one side and down the other, up the front, down the back, and then up the center and shower over you this wave of healing light and relaxation. And then you keep doing it. And as you do, you just naturally, you let all thought go, so you really let all fear go. And you can use it to heal yourself. I started doing that little exercise when I was 21. It's one of the very few things I do consistently, a few times a week at least, because I am real lazy and undisciplined. I tried different paths in my 20s and found most of them were way too disciplined. Anything where you have to do something every day was too disciplined for me. Forget about New Year's resolutions for me. Whenever I made a resolution, like to exercise every day, I wouldn't do it on New Year's Day, of course, because it was New Year's Day, and then the next day I wouldn't get around to it. And I finally realized that's me. I'm lazy, I'm undisciplined, I'm unorganized, my desk is a wreck. That's who I am. I have to totally embrace every part of myself and make it work. So I found this simple little exercise where first you just relax and just bring a picture in your mind. Okay, 5 years have passed. What do I want to do? What does a typical day look like? What have I accomplished? And you just start imagining. It's just pure imagination coming from a relaxed place first. So you don't have your doubts and fears come rushing in, or if they do, you just let them go. Let them go. I did a good session at a Zen center in my early 20s too, and I did find that very helpful because my teacher kept stressing everyone can do Zen meditation, and it just takes one breath. As you just take a deep breath, as you breathe out, you can let go of all thought. For just a few seconds there, you can let go of all thought. Well, that includes all doubts and fears. You can just let them go. That's the Zen approach. There's many ways in the Magical Path that I suggest to deal with those doubts and fears. One is that Zen thing, just let it go. Let go of all thought and just be in the moment. That's one way to do it. So I did that. I just let thought go, and then I dared to imagine 5 years. And I was totally surprised by the picture that emerged. There it may come from a deeper place than your active mind. If you first relax deeply. I do it flat on my back. I do the Middle Pillar Meditation in my favorite yoga pose, which is the corpse posture, which is just flat on your back, arms at your sides, palms up. I'm so lazy I don't even sit up to meditate. But I do it flat on my back. Half the time I even fall asleep. So much that it's a joke in my family. When I say, I'm going to go meditate, they say, yeah, you're going to meditate. And they snore. Because apparently I snore half the time when I'm meditating. But the other half the time, I am awake, and I have this wonderful, relaxing, healing meditation that you can heal your body with that energy, and then you go into that realm of imagination, into that inner space, and dare to dream, and let it come from a relaxed place, and just ask yourself questions. Talk to your dreamer. Have your inner dreamer, or inner visionary, inner magician, however you want to look at it. Have them be in charge of all the inner voices, and you say to them, what do you want to do with your life? This life is precious. This life is important. It's a wonderful opportunity. What do you want to do? After a talk, I remember, this middle-aged woman came up to me, very intense, and said, bottom line, Mark, are you saying anybody can succeed? And I said, yes. She said, well, then why don't more people succeed? I said, that's a great question. And I thought about it for a second, and I said, how many people do you know that really dare to dream of what success is for them? Really dare to dream. What do I mean by success? What do I want to do with this life? Very few. Of those that do, how many actually write an ideal scene in writing where they want to be 5 years from now? And of those that do that, how many make a one-page plan? I get into that in Magical Path. The first chapter is about just the power of our thought and dreams. And yes, they're very ephemeral, our thoughts and dreams, and our doubts and fears can destroy them. The second chapter is on the power of our spoken word. We start affirming, I am now creating the life of my dreams in an easy and relaxed manner, in a healthy and positive way. And then the third chapter is on the power of the written word. We write down our ideal scene, and then what I started doing when I was 30, and encourage everyone to do, is for all my various goals, I have a one-page plan, a simple one-page plan. Somehow that gets deeply into our subconscious. And we all are connected with a hugely powerful subconscious mind, or whatever you want to call it. I loved your opening words in your show. We really are all connected with the quantum field, as the scientists say. We really are all one, part of this one single vast quantum field. And in some very mysterious ways, we can affect this quantum field. We'll never understand how the process of creation works, how we really can create something out of apparently nothing. It's a mystery. It's the mystery of birth and life and death. We can't understand it, but we can set it in motion. We can set it in motion with very simple tools, with our thoughts and our words and our writing. We set the powers of creation into motion in our lives.
Thank you, Mark. Well, it is time for a break already, so we'll be back in just a moment. This is Synchronicity Talk Radio for your mind, body, and soul. I am your host, Marie Benard, and right now we are speaking with Marc Allen. He is the co-founder of New World Library, and he is author of many books, and the one we're talking about today is The Magical Path. Welcome back to Synchronicity Talk Radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie Benard, and we are speaking with Marc Allen. He is the author of The Magical Path, Creating the Life of Your Dreams and a World that Works for All. And he was just kind of bumping around in the world in his 20s, living in poverty, not really having any goals. And then on his 30th birthday, he realized he needed to wake up, and now he is a very successful multimillionaire co-founder of New World Library, a hugely successful publishing company, and he's here talking about how he did it and his book, The Magical Path, Creating the Life of Your Dreams and a World that Works for All. Welcome back to the show, Mark.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you. Now, I find this especially inspiring because I am someone who likes to have lots of free time and doesn't have a whole lot of discipline, and doing something every day sounds like kind of hard. And then I
have to, a whole lot of people say that to me. It's like they're coming out of the closet. They're saying, I'm really lazy too. I love doing nothing for a whole afternoon, It's as if it's a terrible thing, we are conditioned from an early age that work is very important. You know, from the beginning, we get up early 5 days a week at 5 years old to start school. I mean, that to me, that's sad.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because for me, I judge myself that I'm lazy. But if I have an afternoon where I have nothing to do, I can't do nothing. I'm constantly working. But it's like what you were saying. You're doing all these things in your 20s and working and putting a lot of effort in, but it's slipping through your hands. You're just you're putting out all this energy and not getting back.
Right.
How did you change that dynamic in your life?
I was wandering around without a clear destination. Years ago, I wrote a book called A Visionary Life, where I looked back, and in there I said, I think we have to be sort of on course, or at least not filled with doubts and fears 51% of the time. But I remember, I wasn't sure about that. I was just kind of guessing as I wrote it, looking back on my life. Then I heard the analogy about 10 years ago that a plane, when flying, is off course over 95% of the time. But the pilot just keeps correcting over and over and over and over, and the plane reaches its destination. When I heard that, I thought, that's the story of my life. Maybe we can be off course, meaning frustrated, filled with doubts and fears, just filled with anxiety, whatever it is. Maybe we can be off course 90-some% of the time. But these simple tools are so powerful. All we need to do is keep getting on course. How do we do that? We go back to that ideal scene and remember. Or we just affirm one of our goals. Or we take some simple, concrete step, make a phone call, whatever. Or, and this is something I started the day I turned 30, I wrote my ideal scene first, stared at it for a while, overwhelmed with doubts and fears. But even so, I realized there's a list of goals in there. So I wrote a whole list of goals in writing. 1, start a publishing company. 2, start writing a book. 3, start recording your music. 4, start learning about real estate. It was all start, because I had nothing going. I stared at those goals for a while, and then I rewrote each goal as an affirmation, starting with the words, in an easy and relaxed manner, in a healthy and positive way, I am now creating a successful publishing company. In an easy and relaxed manner, in a healthy and positive way, I'm now writing a wonderful book that the whole world embraces. In an easy and relaxed manner. I made a whole list of my goals as affirmations and started carrying it around with me. And to this day, I carry around a list with goals as affirmations with me, and it's the top center thing on my homepage and on my laptop, dreams and goals. And I just occasionally pull it up and read it. I remember telling myself, I'll read this every day. I didn't read it every day at all. I read it maybe once or twice a week or something. Sometimes I read it in a bathroom. That reminds me, when I'm not playing solitaire. But I found in my own undisciplined, lazy way, I could be off course the vast majority of the time, but still reach my destination by returning over and over and over to that dream. Okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm starting a publishing company. I don't know how to do it at all. I know nothing about business, but the next step in front of me is simple. And I realized every one of our goals and dreams is composed of just a series of very simple, doable steps. Eckhart Tolle, who lives in Vancouver, who's my favorite author in the world, who's written my favorite book in the world, The Power of Now, summed it up brilliantly. In a way, he summed up my whole book, The Magical Path, though I give more concrete, specific things to do, but he summed it up in one sentence. He said, get the inside right and the outside will fall into place. That's exactly what I've discovered. You get the inside right, you dare to dream, and you deal with those doubts and fears. And the steps in the outer world become very simple and obvious and easy to do. Definitely, I would say 99% of the important work I've done to go from poverty to real abundance, and from a lot of internal anxiety to a wonderful, abiding inner peace, the steps were all internal. 99% say were internal. And then it was obvious, you just take this step to start a company. It's easy to start a company. Anybody can do it. And then you create your product. Okay. And you You learn that it's all about loving and serving yourself and others. Every company, whatever you're doing, you're there to really serve people. And when you understand that, your company just starts to blossom.
Okay, Marc, I have another question. Thank you. So what about, and I don't know if this is a girl thing or if everyone does this, but I'll have goals and then like maybe I'll change my mind. I find that it's sort of, I don't know if it's because, this is too hard or it doesn't feel achievable. I don't know what it is exactly. It's probably various things, but I'll change my mind. And so then instead of making small, slow, easy steps to this eventual goal, I'm making a goal here and then, scratch that. I make a new goal. And so it's like I'm starting off from square one again and again and again, and then I never get anywhere.
Yeah. It's fine to change your mind. It's totally fine. And it's even fine to have several diverse goals. I meet so many people that were like me when I was 30. I realized, I really wanted to do a lot. I really wanted to write books and do music and do publishing and get into real estate. I wanted to do a lot of different things. But it's totally fine to change your mind. You can have a wonderful dream and you start moving toward it, and it just isn't happening. The universe is not supporting it. It's just not happening. Then I would suggest just keep doing that ideal scene over and over, and keep writing your dreams and goals. Keep going back to them, and some will stick over a period of time. And then others will change, and it's fine to change goals. It's never too late to completely start over. I often tell people, Grandma Moses didn't pick up a paintbrush till she was 65. She never painted a thing in her life. And within 5 or 10 years, she was on the cover of Life magazine, and she was a world-famous artist. It's never too late to completely change even, and to go for something else. Just find what excites you. Find what you're passionate about. Oprah Winfrey said a great thing. I love Oprah. She's emerged as a really powerful teacher. And she said, if you don't know what you're passionate about doing with your life, that's the most important thing you can do, is find out.
Yes.
And how do you find out? It might take some kind of vision quest. You might need to take a vacation, get away, or it might just be the kind of inner dialogue I did, just gathering all your inner selves together and letting your dreamer take over the meeting and say, I have a dream. This is what I want to do today. Support me in this. And if the dreamer tomorrow says, okay, I changed my mind, I don't want to do that, that's not working out, and it's no fun. You let that dreamer be in charge and keep letting that dreamer talk. A great key is, what do you love doing? What's fun? That's what guides me in my work and in what I publish. I only publish projects I love and things that are fun to do. And if at any point, for any reason, they're not fun anymore, I find someone to either just delegate it to and give it away, or we just let the project go. So find what you love to do and what's really fun. What do you do in your spare time? What do you do when you're all alone? And what do you really look forward to doing? We did a book called Work with Passion from a great career consultant named Nancy Anderson, and she has a long career consulting process she puts people through. The first thing she has people do is write their autobiography. A fairly short version, but who were your grandparents? What did they do? Who were your parents? What did they do? What did you learn about life and career? And she said half of her clients, once they just do that inner work of writing an autobiography, know what their passion is. She said right there, half her clients stop working with her right there because they know. They found it out just writing their autobiography. The other half have to go through a whole lot of searching and trying this and trying that. And one good question she said to people, what do you do in your spare time? She tells a story of one woman that said, "I'm embarrassed to tell you what I do in my spare time." And Nancy said, "What?" This was this corporate executive who was totally frustrated as a corporate executive and with corporate politics. And she said, "In my spare time, what I do is I clean my closets in my garage. I clean and organize. I have the most organized closets, in the state, probably." And then she said, "That's your her eyes just lit up as she said it. She said, "That's your passion." That's another key. If you see somebody's eyes light up when they talk about something, or if your eyes light up, that's your passion. She said, "That's it." And the woman just said, "Really? I could make that work?" She said, "Yeah." So the woman started her own business, cleaning and organizing closets and garages. Now she has something like 20 employees at a really sweet company, profitable, and she loves what she does, going into messy homes and organizing.
And so where can we get her number?
Yeah, that's Nancy Anderson. The book is Work with Passion.
Wonderful. So now I actually am curious, because you mentioned the laziness and doing something every day is kind of not something that you really do. So how do you get these books written? It
really doesn't take all that long to write a book. I heard a very successful author say, "I'll tell you a writer's dirty little secret." So a lot of writers, even like writers that churn out a lot of books, like Walter Mosley, I heard, he writes 2 hours every morning, and he gets 1,000 words. 1,000 words, that's 4 pages. That's 100 and what's 30 times 4? 120 pages a month. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. When I started The Magical Path too, I thought it'd be a short book because I just wanted to do the simple little things I've done over the years. I didn't explore anything new. I just did the things I've done. I often say I never had to come to believe in anything or make a leap of faith to say that this works, magic works, or prayer works, affirmations work. I didn't ever have to go there. I just tried them. I just sort of had an open mind and tried it. I remember when I was 15 watching Hamlet in Minneapolis at the Guthrie Theater, and I saw Hamlet say to Horatio, "There is far more in heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio." And I remember that was like a little aha moment. I remember walking around thinking about that and realizing, yes, there's far more in heaven and earth than any of us can understand. So in a way, it's very arrogant of us to even say, you have to have faith and believe in this is the way it is, or to even say, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God. To me, that all seems completely arrogant and completely irrelevant to what is. It's all words. The fact is, some amazing force has created this world, and it's created us with these phenomenal bodies, with DNA in every cell of our bodies. Some amazing force, whatever that is, call it what you will. You don't have to use the word magic even. Even in my book, Magical Path, I say, if you have a problem with magic, substitute it for something else. Call it visualization, or call it strategic planning if you're a business-type person. Call it what you will. It does not matter. But you can set it in motion in your life. And these tools are very simple and very practical. Just try them with an open mind, and as one reviewer said, prepare yourself for some truly marvelous results.
Now, Marc, you also repeat a lot of information in the book. So can we talk about how important it is for repetition? Because doing the show that I've been doing for 4.5 years now, there's a lot of repetition. And sometimes you'll hear something and it's like, oh, this is the same tired old thing again and again. And then the 150th time you hear it, you're like, wow, all of a sudden I have this insight.
Exactly. We need repetition. I repeat things over and over and over and over. I started in my 20s reading books to change my life, and I would find a quote, and I'd put it on my wall in big letters. For years, I said the most powerful book I read was a little book called As You Think by James Allen, or the original version is called As a Man Thinketh. And I took this quote and put it in big letters in my wall. You will become as great as your dominant aspiration. If you cherish a vision, a lofty ideal in your heart, you will realize it. I love the authority of that, the power of that. I repeated that thousands of times over 15 years, and it became true in my life. And I talk about that in The Magical Path. One phrase repeated over and over and over will just blossom, but it does take repetition over and over and over. I think, again, it's a matter of getting our subconscious minds to totally embrace it and accept it and really work with our dreamer and not against our dreamer in any way. So, yes, we need repetition. Look how many times a kid falls down before they get walking down. We need to repeat. At least I do. I need to repeat things over and over and over.
And Marc, you actually recommend memorizing a prayer or a mantra of sorts, and again and again and again and again until you actually start to just think of it when a difficult situation arises. Can you explain that more?
Yeah, it's especially when the difficult situations arise, when we have a lot of anxiety about something. That's when it's really important to remember something. Find a prayer, find an affirmation, find something that works for you, and repeat it over and over and over. It's a wonderful way to deal with our frustrations and doubts. I often think when things are going well, that's not when we really learn this stuff. It's when things are difficult and challenging, when we're faced with what seems like an insurmountable problem. Every time I say that word problem, you'll never hear me say it about myself or any, because I remember that the movie Analyze This with Billy Crystal. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
Where he's a Freudian therapist and De Niro's a mobster who's having anxiety attacks, and Billy Crystal's getting married, and it's the woman from Friends, I think Gwyneth Paltrow or something. And De Niro ruins her wedding, and she gets right in the face of the mobster saying, "You ruined my wedding because of your problems." And just the way she said, problems. Ever since that movie, the word, whenever I hear anyone say problems, I think, oh my God, all they are is these mind-made things. All our problems are simply creations of our minds that we can change. We can affect our thoughts. We don't have to be a victim of our thoughts and emotions. That was a huge shift when I look back. A lot of things contributed to it, but in my 20s, I was a victim of my own thoughts and emotions. I'd have periods of depression. I even had a fear that I would just be overwhelmed by anxieties and not be able to function. I had a fear of my own doubts and fears and thoughts. And somewhere along the line, it all shifted. Definitely part of it was doing meditation, where you start observing yourself and you realize, oh, these thoughts and feelings just come and go. They arise and they pass. They arise and they pass. They're not who we really are. They can change. And then we get to a point where we can consciously change our own thoughts by being aware of them. Let those pass that aren't serving you, and encourage those by repeating a prayer or a poem or whatever. Repeat something that inspires you. I met a woman I knew in my Back to Land experiment when I was 20, and we just re-met on Facebook 40 years later now. And I said, so how has your life been? And she said, well, in my 20s, I was like you. I wandered around not knowing what to do or anything. And then when she turned 30, she read Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain. I was a few years older than her, and I published that book. That was the first big book we published. She said, I read that book. It changed my life, and I got one affirmation that she started repeating over and over and over. This is in the book, Magical Path. She said, I do wonderful work in a wonderful way with wonderful people for wonderful pay.
I love that.
She said that over and over and over and over, and then started getting these ideas. Oh, you could start your own business. You could start doing this. And she started her own business in Seattle. And it's been great for 30 years. And she said, for 30 years, I've worked with wonderful people in wonderful ways, doing wonderful work for wonderful pay.
That I love things that rhyme too, because it feels good.
Yes.
What's the mantra you're currently using? What's the main one?
Oh, let's see. I use a bunch. For at least 18 months, reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, I was stopped on page 155 in the hardcover version on the phrase, to offer no resistance to life is to be in a state of grace, ease, and lightness. And I kept repeating that over and over, and I kept seeing, by the time I read that was in 99, I'd overcome most of the big problems and anxieties. I had generally inner peace, I'd say, but there were all these little things like traffic, like people doing idiotic things, like dumb TV shows or whatever, that I found myself resisting. And I kept repeating that over and over and over. Then I got to page 156. That's as far as I've gotten in The Power of Now. I told this to Eckhart. He thought it was pretty funny because the phrase on 156 is all I need to live and die with grace, ease, and lightness. It's all I need to remember. The one phrase, which is the happiness derived from some secondary source is never very deep. And by secondary source, he means anything out there. We so often think, oh, if only I had the right relationship, the right job, the right things out there. Once they get into place, then I'll be happy. No, it does not work that way. Happiness is a completely inside job. Inner peace is obviously inside job. And Eckhart so brilliantly says, and I think this is one of the most brilliant things ever written, he says, the happiness derived from some secondary source is never very deep. It is only a pale reflection of the joy of being, the vibrant peace we find within when we enter a state of non-resistance. Non-resistance again. Don't resist. Just let go. Accept what is. Surrender to what is. Then we can live and die with grace, ease, and lightness. We're all going to die someday. That's what is. If at that moment we can totally surrender to what is, we will be in grace, ease, and lightness. And once we really dare die with peace, we can live with peace. Because it's the same thing, just surrendering to what is. He said, accept everything as if you've created it, this moment now. He really has the inner peace. He gives us the inner peace, the most important part of a life well lived. And what I more specialize in is I also want some outer success. I want to create success in the world. I like having a very solid income. I like having not to worry about anything financially. And so I just add that piece. The only thing Eckhart says when pushed about success, he does say, just imagine in the now moment how you feel when you've achieved your dreams, the life of your dreams. Imagine how that feels. Because that's the important thing in the now moment. Why did I want a big house on a hill? When I look back on it, it was because I thought, oh, once I have the big house, I'll be just totally on top of things financially, and there will be no stress. I found that, once you get a big house, it's a lot to maintain, and I realized it's not necessary whatsoever. It's not necessary having this big house. It wasn't the big house I wanted. It was the peace of mind.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Mark. Now, I guess you're not aware of this. I actually work with Eckhart Tolle's publisher. You probably know Constance.
Sure, yes.
Namaste
I know her
Publishing.
very well.
Yeah, and so it's interesting that you've managed to take this work and run with it and create so much with it. And I'm actually curious, as you're talking about being happy with what's within and all of that. I actually want to bring something up that might be a little bit off topic, but I feel like right now it's just like so pressing. I have to ask you. So, this weekend I actually broke up with someone. On the show, I talk a lot about my dating and I'm looking for the one and all of this. And this guy is like super really sweet and loving and easygoing. Like it's almost like he's too easygoing. Like he just doesn't have any motivation or ambition. But he says, well, I'm just happy. Like I don't need to make, I don't have to have a guy who's rich, but I have this feeling like I need to feel like I'm with someone who, like you said, is kind of on top of it and where I feel safe and enough where like there's goals and that he's moving towards something, not just sort of being. And so is it wrong of me to want that?
Absolutely not. No. And I remember Thoreau once said, or Emerson, I forget, but we wouldn't be given our desires if we weren't capable of fulfilling them. We wouldn't even have them in the first place. And no desire is wrong. No, your dreams, they're not wrong. I mean, some of our desires, especially like men, if you're a married man like me and you desire another woman, you realize that desire is not wrong. That's natural. That's natural. But we realize we just don't go there because we don't want to destroy our marriage. So even that kind of desire is not wrong. Your desires are not wrong. It's just what steps you take to either fulfill them or not fulfill them.
Well, I guess, sorry, go ahead.
No, I encourage you to just open up to really finding the person that you're inspired to live with.
Yes, that's the thing, because I feel like I have ambitions and motivations and whatnot, and I just feel like if I'm with someone who doesn't, and it's sort of like I grapple with this, well, it's not my place to judge what his path is. I mean, if he doesn't want to do anything and he's happy not doing anything, then good for him, right? But for me, it just feels like that's going to rub off on me, and I like being motivated. I like creating more for the world. Yes.
Yeah, I can't, it's hard for me to even imagine not wanting to do anything. There's so many possibilities in this lifetime of things we can do and be and have. I find it hard to, I guess I have known a few people that do very little and are quite content with it. But I've always wanted a partner that just supports me in what I'm doing fully and has something going that they're excited about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it's my judgment of nothing, like not doing anything. I mean, my interpretation isn't necessarily what's accurate for him. But I was just feeling that, and it came up, and so I wanted to ask you. So we just have a few minutes left in this show, so I want to make sure that we get across, what do you think what's the most important thing that people are going to take away from your book, The Magical Path?
I just always encourage people to dream. I think our education system is generally a failure in that people don't leave high school and college with a dream and with a plan, with something really expansive they're excited about. They haven't connected with their passion so often. At least, I didn't. I was totally clueless after I left high school. And even as I left college, I look back and I think so many important things weren't even talked about, like being in great health and doing what you love to do and daring to dream. So I just always encourage people to say the most important thing we can do in this wonderful lifetime we've been given this amazing opportunity of this incredible physical body, this amazing brain, and we all have some mysterious, wonderful connection with the whole, with our our subconscious, or the whole universe in some way. We're all powerful, creative beings, and we can create the life we want. And all we need to do is dare dream it. Dare dream it and focus on it, and keep coming back to it when all those doubts and fears arise, which they will. Keep coming back to the dream. What we focus on eventually creates our reality. That's the way it works. James Allen was absolutely right in that, as you think. You will become as great as your dominant aspiration. If you cherish a vision, a lofty ideal in your heart, you will realize it. If you keep coming back to it, you can realize it. And it's very simple. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science or brain surgery. It's very simple. Dare to dream. Realize the first few steps are right in front of you. Take them. Deal with the doubts and fears that arise and keep moving toward it. And you will realize the life of your dreams.
I love that. Now, Marc, I want to make sure everyone knows the name of your book and where to find you. So right now we are speaking with Marc Allen. He is the author of The Magical Path, Creating the Life of Your Dreams and a World That Works for All. And now he is the co-founder of New World Library. When he was in his 20s, his life was, no offense, it sounds like it was kind of a mess. And then he figured things out. On his 30th birthday, he was like, all right, I got to be a grown-up and figure out what my goals are. And now he is the co-founder of New World Library. He's a multimillionaire. He's very successful and happy. It sounds like happy, passionate, living what you want to live, not having to sweat it out every day, days where there's nothing to do.
Yep.
Yeah. And Marc Allen, MarcAllen.com. MarcAllen.com is your website. You also have workshops and where do you want people to go to your website and order the book?
Sure. Well, it should be in their local bookstore, and it's definitely on, Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It should be everywhere now. It's just been out about a month. It's time to get everywhere. So order it anywhere. On my website, I do have the paperback is $15.95 US. I think it's the same in Canada now, and but I have a $50 hardcover signed limited edition of just 500 copies too that they can see on my website if they want something really special.
Cool. And now your workshops, are they only in California or do you have anything online?
I have some. Yes, I do things online. I'm just wrapping up an online series, and I will be doing more online in 2013. So. Just, it'll all be on my website, marcallen.com.
Cool. And you're on Twitter and Facebook. Do you spend much time on doing that stuff, or do you have delegated?
I do on Facebook, and then I have a person at work that takes what I do on Facebook and Twitters it.
Oh.
So I don't actually mess with Twitter myself, but I go to Facebook almost every day.
Cool.
I love Facebook.
All right. Well, I'm going to connect with you there because I need to know you. I like your passion, and it feels good to talk to you. So.
Thank you, Marie.
All right. Well, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. I will. It's my Monday. I do nothing on Mondays, so I have no plans whatsoever. So it's my favorite day of the week.
Yay! Oh, is there anything else you want to add before we say goodbye?
I think I've said it. I just encourage people to go for your dreams. You'll never regret it. You'll never regret it. Even if it's a huge failure, we learn not to fear failure because failure is just a step along the way, and you just pick up and you try again. And you will never, ever regret going for your highest dreams.
Thank you so much. You're such an inspiration. So I will see you on Facebook. Have a great day.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. And that was, again, Marc Allen. He is the author of The Magical Path, Creating the Life of Your Dreams and a World That Works for All. And you can find him at marcallen.com. M-A-R-C is how you spell his first name, marcallen.com. And this has been Synchronicity, talk radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie Benard. Coming up in just a moment is Parts Unknown here on CITR. I'm going to close the show with a song by Mark Stanton Welsh. much. And I hope that you have a wonderful, fabulous week. And remember to dream big and follow your dreams. I love you so much. Namaste.